In this video, we're going to demonstrate how to create a meal in the nutrition plan that you can deliver to your clients. First of all, logging in with management credentials, going to the fitness tools, which includes workout and nutrition. Go to the nutrition manager tab, and then the meals tab. Once you get to the meals tab, you can make your decision whether you want to copy an existing meal that's in the database, either as your own meal or as a global meal, make modifications to it and resave it, or if you'd like to create a meal from scratch from available recipes that are in the system, or create your own recipes, which we taught you in another one of these videos. In this particular case, I'm going to add meal. When I'm going to add meal, I'm going to decide what type of meal that I want to create and what type of program that I want to put this into. So in this particular case, I'm going to make a teriyaki salmon with brown rice and steamed broccoli. So in this particular case, I've determined what I want to make, and then I need to determine what type of meal plan that I'm going to apply this to. In this particular case, I'm going to put this into a zone diet, which is a 40-30-30 carb, protein, and fat ratio. Once I do that, I'm going to determine that it's going to be a possible lunch and a possible dinner. It's going to be seafood, and it's going to qualify as a Japanese recipe, obviously with the teriyaki. And I want to apply this into other choices that might make sense. And if you do have anything that's close, a lot of people build meals like this in also as an American meal so that they have a little bit more choices for their people to pull in. But in this particular case, I'm going to leave it as Japanese. So I have lunch or dinner, seafood, Japanese, and I'm going to tag this zone. And zone tag will allow this to come into a meal plan that matches the plan that I've already created that's 40-30-30 in carb, protein, and fat percentages. And it will then qualify into that meal plan because of that food tag. Then I go to add recipe. I type in whatever type of ingredient or recipe that I wanted to put into this particular plan. In this case, I'm going to do a wild salmon, which I already know is available inside of our system. And I happen to know the exact name of it, so I'm going to type that in. But you can just type the word salmon, then find the salmon that makes the most sense, and drop it into your plan. So I'm going to add this recipe. When I add this recipe, you can see immediately it's bringing in the carbs, the proteins, and the fats by percentage and by gram of what I have in this particular meal plan so far in the far right column. Now I'm going to add in the ingredient of brown rice. And I also know that I have a smaller increment of 1/8 cup inside the database. So I'm going to go and find that because it'll allow me to put the meal in with a lower carbohydrate percentage for this particular meal. So you can see my caloric grams of carbs, proteins, and fats have already changed by adding in that additional ingredient. Now I'm going to bring in my steamed vegetables, and I want to search for broccoli. Sometimes these searches do take a little bit of length of time, but it'll always bring in what you're looking for based on what you've selected. So in this particular case, I'm going to bring in the broccoli fresh steamed, add that recipe to my database. I notice that I'm already at a 60-25-15 carb, protein, and fat ratio. I want to put this meal into my zone plan, which is 40-30-30. So I can come in here and I can adjust the different portion sizes of the ingredients or the recipes that I have in the plan to get closer to that 40-30-30 ratio. Usually go 5 to 10, one side or the other of the carb and the protein, and we give a little bit more flexibility in the fat area if we are putting in good quality fats. So in this particular case, I also want to point out that you want to build these recipes in the smallest increments that make sense. That allows our system to multiply that meal in the carb, protein, and fat ratios that you're preferring for this client and this meal plan up 1 or 2 or 5 times to get to the caloric amount of this particular individual, whether it's a lunch or a dinner. So in this particular case, to get it closer to the 40-30-30, I'm going to increase the amount of the salmon, which is obviously going to be higher in protein and not really adding a lot of carbohydrates to the plan. So by changing that to 3 ounces, I'm still at 294 calories, which does allow this to multiply up 2 or 3 times depending on the caloric amount for an individual. You can see that it's much closer to your 40-30-30 carb, protein, and fat percentages. And in this case, I'm going to look at this and go, this is the way I want my client to eat. This fits well into a zone nutrition plan. And then I simply save that to my company, my location and clients, or my clients only, depending on how you want to save that. In this particular case, I'm going to save it to my company, locations, and clients, which makes it available to all of those choices. So I double check everything that I have. I have my naming structure correct. I have lunch and dinner. I have seafood. I have Japanese. I have a low portion amount, and I'm getting close to my carb, protein, and fat percentages that I ideally want to put that in for the zone diet, and I simply hit save. What that does is it saves that meal plan inside of my database. So if I go back to the Nutrition Manager and I go back to meals, that particular meal, now if I go and search for salmon, you'll see it has global meals in, which are the more active meals, but it also has the meals that I just created. So here it is right here, that fall under my database of my company. So if I want to build out the dinners eventually are only coming from the meals that I have either built or modified, I can easily do that by creating a dinner that only comes from, in this case, Fresh Start Transformation database and gets delivered to my client to fall under that zone diet.